Welcome to my channel. My name is Tolu. I'm a Christian dating coach and I specialize in helping women of faith go from single to married within a year. I want to talk about why you're finding it difficult to get into the right relationship for you, step into the marriage God has called you to, and really walk you through the process of, from a Christian woman's perspective, why it's difficult for you to meet men that are eligible. Okay. So the first thing I'll say is it's because you are settling. You're settling because you're afraid what you want isn't available. A lot of you have not experienced being pursued by men intentionally, courted by men that share your values. And so you assume that is the general majority of men that are available. In other words, men that are not in a position to commit to you intentionally for marriage. But the problem, guys, is that you are settling. So when you settle, you make yourself unavailable for that experience. And when I say settling, I mean that you are settling for men that you know you are not attracted to, do not match your values, are taking you for granted emotionally, are taking advantage of your kindness, your heart. They are using you for their own reasons and using your resources for their own purpose. That is not your husband. I really want you to hear that. That is not your husband. Your husband, and I shared a post on this a couple of days back, and let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Just drop any questions you have in the comments. We have a bit more time today, so I'll be taking some questions. If you have anything for me, just drop it in the comments or drop it in the question box preferably. But your husband doesn't have these qualities. And what I've come to see is because you don't know how to identify your husband, you are dating men that are actually not qualified to even be considered for a relationship. If I ask you to list the qualities of a man that you know you want to get married to, a lot of you can list out tons and tons of qualities. Then if I say, okay, the man you're currently with, does he meet these qualities? The last man that you were in a relationship with, in a situationship with, does he match what you've mentioned? You will say no. A lot of you will say no. So why are you dating him? The problem is you are settling. You're settling for what you know isn't. And you know what's interesting, right? When you settle, you just take more time to get to your destination. Because even if you marry that kind of person, it's going to be a very difficult marriage. Even if you enter a relationship with that kind of person, it is not going to be a healthy relationship. It's not going to be a functional relationship. It will be very dysfunctional and it is unlikely to succeed. The chances of it succeeding are extremely low. So in other words, you are wasting your own time. Okay, so when I hear, oh, men are wasting my time, I always say, no, it's not men that are wasting your time. You gave him your time to waste. So you are the one that volunteered to waste your time. So it's important that when you are dating, you need to be solid on what your standards are. Now, when I'm working with my clients one-on-one, what I like to do is make sure that they are clear on what their husband looks like. A lot of you know what your husband looks like. You are not conscious of it's in your subconscious, but it hasn't come to your awareness. And the reason I say this is, as women of faith, when you're called to marriage, it's very important to realize it's a spiritual calling. So in other words, the information that the Lord has given you about your husband, just like anything else he's giving you in life, it comes from spirit. It comes from your spirit. It is not something that is given in the flesh. It is something that is spiritually downloaded. It is in your subconscious. It is in your spirit, man. And scripture that comes to mind is when Adam identified Eve and said, bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. So it was deeper than flesh. It was a calling in spirit. He said, bone of my bones. And even scripture also mentions he who finds a wife finds a good thing. So in other words, you're a wife before you're found. I don't want to get into it, but those are just some scriptural references that I want you to think about. You do know your husband. The problem is you don't think it's available to you. You don't think that kind of man exists. That kind of man is somebody that you can marry. I was actually talking to a client yesterday about this because throughout the course of our work together, we've cleaned up the way she dates, how she's making herself available to men. She's now talking to, going on dates with men that are matching the values that she wanted, which previously she thought was not even available to her. And that was the problem. She didn't think it was available. But it's important for you to know that it's available to you to marry the kind of man you desire so that you know how to attract him. You cannot attract what you are not aware of. Okay, you cannot attract what you are not aware of. If you want a healthy relationship, you want to be with a man that has certain qualities, you need to be able to identify those qualities so that you can position yourself to receive it. It's kind of like if you're hungry, there are a couple of options that come to mind. You go to the kitchen, you order a delivery service, or you go to the supermarket or a restaurant. You are aware of those options. That is how you know they're available. But if you're saying, oh, I want to get married to a man that has a relationship with God, that is financially stable, that is kind, that is intelligent, and you are not aware that that is available to you, you will settle. It's inevitable because you think you don't have options. Think about it. If you go to a restaurant, you order a particular meal and they say it's not available, you choose something else because they've told you that option isn't available. You settle for something else. It is not your preferred choice, but it is the only available option in that case, so you take it. It's the same with dating. The problem is you don't even know what's available to you, so you settle for what you think is the only option. And that's why a lot of you are getting into relationships that aren't productive. You're wasting time, years, months with men that don't have an intention of being serious with you and don't even desire to marry you. And that's by the way. But the main thing is they are not called to that assignment in your life. And it's important that you recognize what that looks like. So when I'm working with clients, I have what I call a marital template that makes it easy for them to be able to identify, okay, these are the qualities that I desire in a partner. This is how I can reflect those qualities in my life and how I can position myself to receive it. It's why my clients are able to attract the men that they have desired to meet for years, literally within the course of the program, and start going on dates and get into a relationship and get married. It is just a problem of lack of awareness. So if you're settling, this is one of the issues. This is one of the reasons why. And you can share your thoughts in the comments, but it's something that I've seen quite often with Christian single women. You don't believe what you want is available. You are told by society, by your parents, by your peers, by the public that you're asking for too much. And I was sharing this with another client the other day. The definition of settling simply means that you don't believe it's available. That's what it is. If they say you're settling for something, it just means you don't believe it's available. And to go on from that, to get into the kind and quality of marriage and to attract the quality of man you want, you need to believe it's available. Another reason why this happens is you don't have clean and clear standards. So when I say clean and clear standards, I mean standards that are clearly defined, that are not wobbly, that are not wishy-washy, that you can stand by confidently, that you can see as a very important value system for you. I want to give you guys a practical example. So if you're making, jollof rice, fried rice, you need to get certain ingredients. You want to get your curry, your rice, your vegetables, your sweet corn, and so on and so forth. Those are the ingredients to do that. That is the standard required to get the result of fried rice, okay? Now, if you don't get the curry, you are not going to be able to get the green coloring, for example, in the fried rice. If you don't add any seasoning, the rice is going to be very bland. Okay, if you don't add any seasoning, spices, don't do any of that stuff. You don't add vegetables. At some point, if you remove everything, it doesn't look like fried rice anymore. Even if you just have the rice, it doesn't look like fried rice anymore. It's not because it isn't fried rice, because you didn't add the essential ingredients. And think about, if you don't know what fried rice is, just think about any recipe. Anything at all, even if it's eggs, if it was scrambled eggs or boiled eggs or whatever, think about any recipe. If you take out some ingredients, it doesn't look like it anymore. Okay? Why? Because that is not the standard to get that result. Requires certain ingredients. It's the same way the standards that you have when you are dating to marry require certain ingredients. It is not enough to just say he's a single man. It's not enough to say he's a Christian man. There are more tangible ingredients that are going to create the kind of marriage you require and the kind of marriage you've been called to that you need to pay attention to. Okay? Now, if you don't have those standards, you are not going to get that result. That's why I give that whole analogy about fried rice. If you don't have those standards, it just wouldn't look like the results you want. It's not going to look like it. Doesn't matter if it's like if I try and make the fried rice and I don't add all the ingredients that are necessary, that are standard. Standard means it is not negotiable. It needs to be in there. Certain level of these ingredients need to be in there. I can call it fried rice all I want. The point is, it doesn't look like fried rice. So it's not fried rice. I can say, oh, it's fried rice, this is a delicacy, but the point is, it isn't. It isn't. If you taste it, it doesn't taste like it. If you look at it, it doesn't look like it. If I call different people to come and assess it, if you put a picture of fried rice beside it, they are not the same thing. They are both rice, but they are definitely not the same kind of rice. That's how a lot of you are dating. And it's because you don't know how to create the right standards for the kind of marriage and the kind of man you want. You are dating, you're trying to get fried rice. In other words, you're trying to get a healthy, sustainable, functional relationship where you're happy, you're well supported, you're pursued, provided, and protected. But your standards are not reflecting that. So you're just attracting men that take advantage of you, that abuse you emotionally, that are not even willing to participate in the process of being a partner. And some of you are dating these men for years. It's not like you don't know. You know because it doesn't look like fried rice. You are fully aware. But you are deceiving yourself that no, it just needs more time. It will look like fried rice. It is not going to look like fried rice because what you are seeing is the finished result. But you keep trying to change it. It's not possible because you don't have the standards. In other words, the ingredients required to get that result are not in that person. They are not in that relationship. You cannot manufacture it. So, and going further with this analogy, no matter how much you pray over white rice look like fried rice, it is not going to become fried rice. You can look at that bowl, pray, fast, speak declarations, affirmations on it. Guess what? It's still white rice. It's still white. And take any recipe, whatever, and remove the essential ingredients. It is still white rice. But that's the strategy a lot of you are using. And you think, oh, my prayers are not working. No, your prayers are not being deployed correctly. Your prayers are not being deployed correctly. Scripture says that you don't want to be praying as if somebody that is boxing aimlessly in the air. Your prayers are not, there's a strategy behind prayer. Okay, there's a strategy behind prayer. You pray with strategy. And, if you've ever attended any of our wife in waiting conferences, you have an idea of what I mean. There's a strategy behind prayer. You don't just open your mouth and prayer is very powerful. You can open your mouth, make declarations, and it will work. But to get a fuller results, to get faster results, there's a strategy behind it. And when I say fuller results, I mean faster understanding, being able to connect with the Lord faster, being able to be sensitive in the spirit. There's a strategy behind it. So in this context, using the analogy of food, if you are praying, okay, Father, teach me how to make fried rice, that's completely different than, Lord, turn this white rice into fried rice, because that won't happen. But the correct prayer for that particular situation is, teach me how to make fried rice. And then the Holy Spirit will tell you, you forgot to add curry. Or maybe you should go and look at a recipe. Or talk to your friend, you really like her rice. That is how prayer works. But a lot of you aren't doing it that way. And using this analogy in relationships, you are praying, Lord, bless this relationship. A relationship he has clearly scattered. And how he scatters, I call it the Babel experience. Nothing is working. There's confusion everywhere. You don't have peace. The man doesn't have peace. You are saying A, he's hearing B. He's saying C, you are hearing F. There's just confusion everywhere. You're praying, Lord, make this relationship. That's the wrong prayer. The prayer that you should be praying instead in that kind of situation is, Father, give me the wisdom to make the right decision, to be able to see your answer clearly, to be able to take the next step, to be able to leave this relationship without any problems. Give me the understanding, the discernment to be able to know why this is not my husband. That is a different kind of prayer. You see what I mean? I wanted you guys to understand that there's a strategy behind prayer. Okay, part of the problem is you're not saying the right prayer points. And I want to be careful about what I mean by that, because prayer is, again, very powerful. But you want to be clear about the results you're trying to get so that you are in a position to receive that understanding. But that's how a lot of you are praying about your marriages and relationships. Lord, this is the year you've called me to marriage. You're just praying, but you're not doing anything. If they say, okay, when last did you talk to a guy? How often do you meet men? Nothing. No, zero. It's not the prayer that's the problem. It's that you're not being practical. You're not being practical. So it's important for you to understand. And that's why you settle. That's the reason I went through this whole process. You settle because, you are not being practical through that process. You don't have the right standards in place. You find it difficult to be able to understand what are the essential ingredients for the relationship God has even called me into. What does that even look like? What does it feel like? What is the Lord telling me? And some of you carry a template that worked for somebody else into your own life. Oh, because it worked for my sister, it worked for my friend, let me try. It won't work for you. Why? Because your path is different. I mean, just literally by evidence of what you've experienced in dating, your path is different. I'm sure your friend that you're admiring, oh, her marriage worked out, she got married. She doesn't have similar experiences to you with men in dating and so on. And that's not because she's any better. It just means her path is different from yours. And I sometimes get the question, oh, Tolu, why is it easier for others? Well, the truth is, everyone has a particular area in their lives where there is ease. Some of you have ease, you have grace, for lack of a better way of putting it, when it comes to making financial decisions, business decisions. You have grace when it comes to career options, professional advancements. You have grace when it comes to new opportunities. Meanwhile, some other people struggle. And when I say struggle, I just mean that it's not that simple for them. They have to go through a process of growing. They have to go through a process of learning, maturing. That is their own path. Okay. So for you, when it comes to marriage, what if your path requires you to learn certain things to get the marriage you desire? It's just the truth. What if that's required? Well, it certainly looks like it is because it hasn't happened. What if that's required? So it's important for you to look at, and this is all connected to standards, because a lot of you are not paying attention. You're too stubborn. Like I said, guys, I have time today, so I'll just be very honest. You're too stubborn about what you think it should look like, and you're forgetting to pay attention to what it actually looks like. God has been showing you the same thing for months, for years. You refuse to listen. He showed you this is an area that needs your attention. You can't keep dating these kinds of men. If you want to enter the right relationship, you need to drop this habit. He's been showing you, but you won't listen. You keep praying. Meanwhile, he's answered. He's answered your prayer. He's told you, actually, this is, even when you pray a prayer that doesn't make sense, the Lord will answer, because prayer is the language of the Spirit. Even like using the analogy of, like I was saying earlier about fried rice and white rice, you're praying over white rice to be fried rice. God himself will tell you, like through the sermon, that actually this isn't, why not just add seasoning? That's an answer to your prayer, but you are not hearing because you don't want to do it. You don't want to do it. And how this shows up in dating is, maybe you don't want to be single. You're afraid of being alone. You don't want to deal with letting go of that relationship. You are afraid of the process of breaking up. You don't want to face the fact that you are not actively dating. You keep making excuses around, I have a demanding schedule, I'm a single mom, and so on and so forth. And none of that is going to be very helpful to you in getting into the relationship and marriage you want. Meanwhile, God is bringing it to your attention because those are your answers to the prayers that you've been asking him about. He's saying, okay, fine, you want to get married? You need to be going on dates. You need to, like, he may ask you a simple question. When last were you in a relationship? When last did you go out with someone? He's answering your prayers, but because you guys, you are so stubborn, you don't listen, that you are looking for a particular answer. And in developing your standards, you have to be sensitive in the spirit, and you also have to be willing to be practical enough to make mistakes. That's another reason you settle. You are afraid to call it what it is. It was a mistake. That relationship was a mistake. You were there for years. That marriage was a mistake. Let's get into it. It was a mistake. It doesn't define you. But you are still living there. Okay? That man you gave a chance, that you started dating was a mistake. That's fine. Let's just move on. But because you are not willing to face the facts of this, you settle. You'd rather stay in a place that is not good for you. You'd rather stay with the man that you know isn't healthy for you. You'd rather get suffocated than be set free. Okay? You'd rather be suffocated than be set free. it's fine that it was a mistake that you didn't take dating seriously. So it was a mistake you assumed that this man would appear into your life out of nowhere. Let's not suffocate ourselves with truth. The truth will set you free. Okay, so now you know, what can you do about it? Definitely not, settling is not the solution. Okay. Is this helpful? Drop it in the comments if this is helpful to you. Let me know if you have any questions. Another reason that you are settling is because you don't, how would I put this? You don't know how to make yourself visible. So I talk about visibility a lot. So, I always say, if you're not meeting enough men, you're not getting enough attention, you have a visibility problem. If you are finding that you are meeting men, but they are not aligned with what you want, they are not the kind of men that you want to be connected to, have a relationship with, then you have a volume problem. In other words, you just need to meet more men to be able to understand exactly what you're doing wrong and how to change it. Now, if you find that you're getting into relationships, but commitment is a problem, then the problem is your value isn't being communicated correctly, and you don't even see your value, because a lot of you stay in relationships for years just because you don't value yourself enough to leave, and you don't have the right standards and boundaries to protect the value that you're carrying. So it's either one of those three problems. Okay, usually a mixture of two. It's either you have a problem with visibility, or you have a problem with volume, or you have a problem with value. Now, when it comes to settling, you need to be clear about how you're making yourself visible. Visibility is about how people see you, are more specifically men. You will know if you have visibility if you can look at the if you can determine, I'm thinking of the best way to say this, if you can determine the way men approach you. If you are clear about, this is how men approach me, this is how they talk to me, this is how a guy usually flirts with me, visibility isn't your problem, because you will know, because you have enough experience to know what it looks like. The problem in that case will probably be volume. So what I mean by that is, you're just not meeting enough men frequently enough that match what you want and that mirror the qualities that you desire in a partner. But if you are blank, if you're drawing blanks on, okay, how does it look like when a guy approaches me? How does it look like when a man is trying to get my number, when he's trying to talk to me? When last did that happen? Oh, it's been years. And this experience has to be within the last few months, by the way. I'm not talking about 10 years ago when you knew how a man was approaching you. I'm not talking about 5 years back. I'm talking about within the last couple of months. This should be a consistent enough experience that you should be able to determine when a guy is trying to move to you. Okay, so if you're not able to do that, then your problem is visibility. If you are able to do that, but then you find that the men that are approaching you and trying to talk to you are not matching what you want, your problem is volume. You just need to meet more men that align with the right kind of values you're looking for. Okay, the reason I'm explaining this is because a lot of you assume that based on the fact that not enough men are approaching you, or the men that are approaching you are not what you want, you need to settle. You think the solution is to settle, and I'm telling you that is not even in the equation at all. The problem there is just either you need to increase the pool of men that you are attracting based on volume that match what you want, or you need to work on your visibility so that men are even seeing you in the first place. I didn't mention settling at all, because that is not a part of the equation at all. So not meeting enough men doesn't mean you're being picky. It doesn't mean they don't exist. It usually is just a visibility or a volume problem. Okay, so like when I'm working with my clients, what I like to do is create a very clear visibility strategy. I call it a visibility strategy. It simply means, how are we going to make sure that you're visible enough to the right pool of men so that you have the right volume and you are in a position to be pursued by the kind of men you want to partner with. That's it. It's very practical. So that's what I walk my clients through. And then they discover that simply by switching up their visibility, they have also changed the way they are introducing opportunities for men to approach them. So I'd have clients say, oh, I met somebody at the train station. I've tried dating apps multiple times. They didn't work, but with your strategy, I'm going on a date with a guy. It's so organic. It's so, I'm having so much fun. I'm meeting men left, right, and center. I literally had a client say that her friend said her angels are working overtime. And I told her that it's because we've switched up how you're making yourself visible. And these are clients that are meeting men organically and online, because it doesn't really matter. You just need a strategy that suits who you are as a person. You need a strategy that suits who you are as a person. But a lot of you think, oh, maybe I'm asking for too much. I need to settle. No, that's not going to solve anything. You just need to work on your visibility and volume. And when you fix those two things, your value becomes more tangible faster to men. Okay? When I say your value becomes more tangible faster, because you have more practice talking to men, you have more practice flirting, you have more practice being in your feminine, you have more practice with discernment, you're partnering with the Holy Spirit closer. So your value enhances in its tangibility. Right? That is how you become a wife in waiting, so to speak. That's how you move from being a woman to a wife in waiting. That's the extent I want to explain it, because I don't want to get you guys confused. But my point is, settling is not the solution. Okay? Now, another thing I wanted to say is, part of the reason you're settling is you're not comfortable saying no. And you need to get comfortable saying no. And when I say no, I mean say no to what you don't want, so that there's opportunity for you to say yes. If you keep saying no, if you keep saying yes to what you don't want, you're not going to get the opportunity to say yes to what you do want. It's not going to happen. You need to be able to say yes to what you do want, so that you can get into the kind of relationship that you desire. But if you keep saying, if you keep agreeing to every Tom, Dick, and Harry that approaches you, you keep taking any kind of treatment, you keep making excuses for yourself, like, oh, I'm very busy, I don't have the time. It's just not going to happen. Nothing is going to change. That's just the truth. Nothing is going to change. It's just a fact. If you keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result, well, you're deceiving yourself, because that's not how anything is done. Like, back to my fried rice analogy. If you keep making white rice hoping it will be fried rice, it will never be fried rice. Doesn't matter how many years you make it. Doesn't matter how many prayers you pour into that white rice. It will never be fried rice. But that's how a lot of you are dating. And I really want you to get it. This is why I'm going through the whole process of all these my analogies. A lot of you are praying for white rice to become fried rice, doing the same thing year in, year out, and somehow miraculously it will not happen. It's just a fact. You need to do something different. You need to throw in a little seasoning in there. You need to change up the recipe. You need to try a different approach. You need to do something. Right? So this is the thing with learning to say no. Saying no doesn't only mean, oh, a lot of you think saying no is just about boundaries. No, it's also about saying no to what doesn't suit your standards. And what this can look like is saying no to doing the same thing again and again. Because clearly, if you're listing all these qualities, you guys can drop some qualities that you want in a partner. Drop it for me in the comments. If you're listing, oh, I want this, I want that, I want this, and you keep waiting for it to just drop in your lap. Oh, I want somebody that, I don't know, financially stable, kind, intelligent, fit, takes care of himself, has a relationship with the Lord, is family oriented, and you haven't met that kind of person, then it means that you need to do something to make yourself available to that kind of man. Clearly, your strategy is not, in fact, you don't have a strategy, but what you're doing is not working. You want somebody that, oh yeah, I want a guy that loves God. A lot of you forget these are also men. A man that loves God has qualities as well that are outside the faith. What I mean by that is, he may love music. He may like going to events. He may be really into numbers, investments. He may be somebody that loves to hang out with his family on weekends. He's a human being. So in saying you want a godly man, you also need to remember he is a man. He has other qualities. And those other qualities are important for you to be able to get his attention. Okay? So it's important for you to be able to see the full picture of what you want. And learn to say no so that you can say yes. So what I mean by saying no, I mean saying no to doing the same thing again and again. Like, no, like tell yourself, no, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep praying for white rice to become fried rice. Clearly, it's not going to happen. It doesn't make sense. How? Wisdom is profitable to direct. It doesn't make sense. White rice cannot become fried rice if I don't do something about it. That's what I mean by saying no. I'm not just talking about saying no to a guy that crosses your boundaries. I'm talking about saying no to yourself so that you can say yes, so that you can make different decisions. If not, you will settle. Settling comes from a place of, I believe that it just comes because there's lack of knowledge. You know, my people suffer for lack of knowledge, as scripture says. It's just lack of knowledge. The problem isn't that there are no men. It's just the knowledge on how to address it. Or that there are no that there are no eligible bachelors and so on and so forth. There are. I work with clients literally, frequently, regularly, that the same places they told me before they work with me, they are not meeting men. It's the same places they meet their husbands. It's the same places they go on amazing dates with men. They are literally in shock. I'm not even exaggerating. Like, I was talking to a client the other day. She was so surprised. In fact, she's still surprised that, you know, and her experience was interesting because she didn't want to even try the apps. She tried it multiple times. And I was like, let's just do it with my strategy. Let's just try it differently. Again, let's throw in some seasoning, to use the white rice, fried rice analogy. Let's just try it a different way. Boom. Connected with an amazing guy. That was it. That was all. Just a different approach. So it's important for you to understand settling is not the solution. That's why I went through this entire process of explaining all these things. I wanted you to understand the full extent of the options you have available to you. Settling isn't one of them. You can get into a healthy relationship with a man you find attractive, that matches your values, that is somebody that will provide for you, protect and pursue you. But you do need to make yourself available for that to happen. Okay? You do need to make yourself available for that to happen. Do we have any questions? I think I finished sharing what I wanted to share. But yeah, I'll just go through it again. I've broken down having what the right standards look like, because a lot of you, your standards are not they're not clean enough. So what I mean by that is they're too polluted. In other words, they're too influenced by external opinion. They're too wishy-washy. Today, you want somebody that is financially stable, but tomorrow you are dating somebody that is broke and has never worked a job in his life. It doesn't make sense. So your standards need to be clean and clear. There are some essential qualities that are required that you cannot ignore, that your partner will have to have. Okay, so and then I mentioned how you need to learn to say no to doing the same thing. And a lot of another thing I see is, you, as a woman of faith, I mean, faith is very important in your entire process as a Christian, but it is going to require work on your end. Faith without deeds is dead, James 2:26. It's going to require work. Now, how the works will manifest what your faith has planted is something that nobody can determine for you. I've had clients that have gone from single to married in a year. I've had clients that have gone from single to married in 2 years. Everybody's path is different. I've had clients that have gone from single to married within a couple of months, and clients that are now currently dating, clients that are engaged but are not married yet. Everybody's process is different, but it is a process. Now, the problem I see is there's too much focus on the destination that you miss the progress you've made on your journey. There's a difference between there's a difference between timing. Morning and afternoon look different. You can tell the difference by the time of day, looking at the sky. You can tell the difference by people's schedules. Maybe you notice more people are at a restaurant, so you can tell, or a cafe, you can tell, okay, it's lunchtime, breakfast time. There are signs around to indicate where you are. And this is something I show my clients how to do, how to be sensitive to the times. Because as scripture says, sons of Issachar knew the sign of the times. You need to know what signs look like for you to progress. If you are still in mourning, in other words, if you are still doing the same things, having the same experiences, and how you can tell is timing again. You are experiencing the same thing again, and again. So for instance, you keep talking to men, it never moves past a particular point. Your relationships always break up at 2 months. You find that men ghost on you. It means that you're in the same spot. If that is an experience that keeps repeating itself, you haven't moved. I want you to understand that. You haven't moved. How you can determine you have moved is, one way is, you notice that, okay, fine, my relationships with men, I'm not jumping into relationships. It starts with you, by the way. I'm not jumping into relationships anymore, because some of you do that. I'm taking my time to get to know a guy, talk to him more. I am not settling for men that I'm not even going to consider dating a man that is an atheist. That is how you change the timing. So what I help my clients to do is understand from your position, what can you change? Because that is required for you to move forward. You need to, it's kind of like when you get in a car, you need to start the car. You need to start the car for it to be in motion, to be in a position to move. But a lot of you are just sitting in the car. You're just somehow expecting the car to move by itself. You need to be making progress. So when my clients are going through the process, because they don't just wake up married, I worked with them to that point. They don't just wake up and they're married. No, I help them to determine, okay, this is your starting position. You're currently single. You've never been in a healthy relationship, or you haven't dated in years. You've gone through some major bad experience with men. You've gone through a divorce. You have kids, so on and so forth. Let's face facts of where you currently are. Let's deal with that information so that we know how to start your car. Does that make sense? Because everybody's car is different. Again, another analogy. So what I simply mean is everybody's journey looks different. Your journey as a woman that has never been married, doesn't have kids, is going to be different from a woman that has gone through a divorce and has kids. It's going to be different from a woman that is currently in a relationship but knows this isn't her husband. Completely different journeys, completely different cars. So it's important to know what are the factors in your own journey so that you know how to start your car. So when I'm working with clients, we start with a dating audit so that I can say, okay, this is the kind of vehicle you're in. In other words, this is the kind of journey that you are on, so that we can track your progress towards marriage. That's why I started by saying that everyone's journey looks different. But the problem is you haven't accepted your journey. You haven't accepted your journey. A lot of you are still in denial. You haven't accepted. It's like you have this car. In other words, these are your experiences. You are still in denial about it, and that's your problem. That right there is your problem. It's not, I see a comment about people will say you have a spirit spouse. Exactly. People always everybody's always looking for something else to blame. Meanwhile, you're the one completely responsible for your current position. You just haven't accepted the fact that this is your car. Okay, these are the tools I have at my disposal. What can I do with those tools to get the result? Like when I'm working with my clients, right? Like every client is different. Like I've worked with clients single, gone through a major breakup, in the process of breaking up, situationship, you name it, divorced. Work with all kinds of clients in different cars. Everyone's journey is different. So it's important for you to look at what are the factors in your own journey. Because if you don't look at the tools, there's no point. It's not going to work. Okay? That's why I'm not a fan of taking somebody else's recipe and trying it yourself. Okay, maybe you tasted, again with the fried rice. Maybe your friend makes really good fried rice, but she likes to add cinnamon or parsley. But for you, you don't like the taste of cinnamon. So why would you now go and copy that recipe and paste it when you don't even like the taste of cinnamon? It doesn't make sense. But that's how a lot of you are dating. You're trying to copy somebody else's template. And it won't work for you because there are certain things, there are certain standards that work for her that are not even part of your process at all. So you need to know, what are the tools in my journey? And how can I work with them? What is the car I'm driving so that I know how to start it? As you know, there are some cars that are manual, some are automatic. Which type of car are you in? What brand? And guys, I'm running out of car analogies because I don't know anything about vehicles. But I mean, what kind of car are you driving? What's the make, so on and so forth? These are very important questions. What's the mileage, and so on and so forth? What's the color? Very important questions. And translate this into dating. So like when I'm working with my clients, I like to make sure, okay, let's get the facts. Yes, there's definitely always going to be a place for prayer. Prayer never stops. We pray till we die. But what are the facts? What is God showing you? What is something he's prompting in your spirit to pay attention to? And sometimes it looks so small. But what I've come to understand through my relationship with God is the answers are always simple. It looks so small, but that small thing is the problem. That small thing. Have you ever tried wearing a shoe with a little pebble in it? Has that ever happened to you? There's a Yoruba saying that goes, it's only the person that wears shoes, and I'm roughly translating here. If you know it, please share it in the comments. But it's only the person that wears the shoes that know where it hurts. Have you ever tried walking with a little pebble in your shoe? A little pebble. It's so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable. Like, I remember one time, because I like fruits a lot. More specifically, I take grapes quite a bit. Like, you can always see me, if you see me anywhere, like in, I don't know, a living room or whatever, I always have grapes with me. I just like grapes because they're sweet. They're also fruits and whatever. Anyway, so I always have grapes. But you know, and this is like, maybe this will be helpful to you guys if you like grapes. You know, like those little stalks that you pluck the grapes from. Guys, if that thing gets in your foot, it is not funny. So one of the little grape stalks got into my foot. I don't know, it was somewhere on my carpet, and it just got into my foot. Let me tell you, I could not, what's the word? I was so uncomfortable. I had to go to the pharmacist. I could not go to the gym. And you all know I like fitness. I like working out. I could not go to the gym. I had to like, you know how you can pick out the stalk and put some disinfectant on it. It was just a tiny, when I tell you this thing was so small, but I couldn't walk long distances because of this tiny thing. That is how minute your problem can be, and it can create a major issue. So it's not spirit husband. It could be just a very tiny problem that you don't even know is there. It's not spirit husband. It is something that is so tiny that you haven't paid attention to because you refuse to look at the facts of your situation. I couldn't work out for like 3 days, 4 days, because like the sole of my feet needed to, I don't know, get back the, that layer of protection. And I thought, wow, this is an interesting lesson. Something so small. Major issues, couldn't walk for long distances, definitely could not work out, and so on and so forth. Had to be getting TCP, disinfectant, tiptoeing around the house. just from a tiny, very small, from grapes. And that's why a lot of you, and putting that analogy into dating, that's part of the reason why you're experiencing issues. It's something so tiny. It's not a spiritual problem. Are there situations like that? Absolutely. That's why I said you need to know how to pray strategically and weaponize prayer. And we have resources for that. If you've ever attended our prayer conventions, we don't play with prayer. I also show my clients how to pray strategically around marriage. Yes, prayer is an important part, it's part of the process that I work with clients on learning to hear from God. learning to understand what the Holy Spirit is telling you. You know, some of you have gifts, some of you are dreamers, some of you receive visions, some of you receive a word. So learning to amplify that as you are dating so that you know how God speaks to you. It's part of the process I walk my clients through. So yes, I'm not discounting the power of prayer. I'm just saying that you also need to take account of what are the little things that you're ignoring that is so simple to solve. Okay. Awesome. Do we have any questions? I think this was like really helpful. Let me know if it was. If this was helpful to you, just drop how it was helpful to you in the comments. If you have any questions from me, let me know. And tap the hearts if you find it helpful. Okay, so I have a question here on affordable plans for clients. Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to work with me one-on-one, I have a program. It's called Dating to Marry. We work together for 6 months. And what we're going to do within that time frame is show you how to get into a committed relationship leading to marriage. Like, it's a very intimate process. We'll be working one-on-one for 60 minutes every single week to get you to that point where you are ready to step into a relationship leading to marriage. And that program has successfully helped my clients not only achieve that, but also gain understanding, awareness, discipline around their dating, and understanding how to position themselves to be visible to the right men. So if you want to work with me and you're a 30 plus Christian single woman that doesn't have time to date, aren't sure how to maximize opportunities for visibility so you attract the right men, then Dating to Marry will be the right program for you. You just click the link in my bio and first tap to apply. There are payment plan options available, or you can pay in full for the program. So yeah, like, those are flexible options to be able to work with me one-on-one. Let me see. Do we have any other questions? Can drinking be something to consider? I'm assuming that's a question around what you're looking for in a man. See, you can consider whatever you want. Whatever is important to you should be considered. You can consider whatever you want. And what I like to do, I call it a hobby list. So with my clients, like, we create a list that allows them to be able to confidently stand behind it in spirit, soul, and body. A lot of you, your lists are filled with things that are just vanity. You don't want it. You don't. And when I say vanity, I don't mean you are not attracted to it. I just mean you think it is something that you should have based on other people's opinions. That is not the right way to build a list. A list is actually very helpful. So I call it a hobby list. So it basically shows my clients how to build a list in a way that aligns with the kind of marriage they're called to and the kind of man they're called to, so that they can stand behind that list. That is how they get their standards. That's how they know what their non-negotiables are, and they can make sure they're making the right fried rice, so to speak. They're not making fried rice. They're not making patty jollof. They're not making rice for everybody in the house. They're not making rice for an event. They're making rice that is suitable, customized to the kind of marriage they are called to. So when I say rice, guys, in case you're just joining or you're missing the analogy, I'm talking about they are creating a list that allows them to know exactly what their husband looks like, how to attract him, how to position themselves to be able to be found by that kind of man. And then I'll end by saying this. You get to choose your husband, okay? There isn't just one man that is going to meet your list. It's kind of like saying, okay, maybe you're really craving Chinese. You're craving Chinese food, right? And your regular restaurant doesn't have any Chinese available. There's another option. You can try a different restaurant. Just because your regular restaurant is not open today, maybe, doesn't mean you can't have Chinese. You just go to a different restaurant. And you can do your due diligence. Look at reviews, look at their menu, look at their pricing, call the restaurant, ask for recommendations. That's your due diligence. And you may find that you even like the new restaurant better than your usual restaurant that you go to for Chinese. Why am I saying this? Because I want you to understand you get to choose. That's why I use the whole analogy of Chinese food, or anything for that matter. You don't just say, oh, because this is the only man I've seen with these qualities, I must marry him. No, that is not the right way to date. You want to be able to be confident around seeing the qualities that you want in different men and making an independent decision on what is best suitable for you. That is how you make the right decisions around commitment. You never want to commit from a place of scarcity. It's not helpful. It's going to show up in your relationship with that person. It's going to show up in your thinking process in terms of reconciling what you're saying with what you would like to see instead. So maybe you do meet a godly man that is financially stable, but you find that he is emotionally unavailable. But you are trying to make it work because this is the first man you're seeing that is a godly man and financially stable. Nope, that's not a good idea. What you want to be able to do is say, okay, I'm getting closer to what I want, but this is definitely not it, and let that go. And you will find, and this is something that I've seen with clients again and again, just learning to use your journey to learning to see the way you attract men as an indication of how close you are to meeting the right man for you. Okay, so if you're meeting men that don't even match what you want, then you're not close at all. That's just a summary of it. If you're meeting men that match 50% of what you want, then there's a 50% on your end that you need to account for. If you're meeting men that are more closer to 70-80%, it's just a question of what does that 70-80% contain. And you will find that when you get to that 70-80% arena, you will meet more than one man that matches those qualities because you are in a different space entirely. It's kind of like when you're traveling somewhere. As you travel, the landscape changes. You may have been in the suburbs, now you are in the city center, now you are in the countryside. The landscape changes. It's the same with dating. As you go on that journey with your car, the landscape is meant to change. In other words, the men are meant to match closer and closer and closer to what you want in a partner, so that by the time you are now close to marriage, you will know just literally by evidence of the men around you, and you can now choose who you want to commit to. So you commit from a quality pool of options. You don't commit based on this is the first man I've seen that has A, B, and C, even though he is not somebody that has essential qualities I desire. That would also be settling. Okay? Awesome. So I'm going to go now. I don't see any questions here. If you want to work with me one-on-one and you're a 30-plus Christian single woman, if you're a 30-plus Christian single woman and you want to work with me one-on-one, click the link in my bio and first tap to apply. I'll view your application. If you're the right fit, we'll hop on a call together. Okay, so I have a question. When you do figure out this guy isn't your husband, how do you cut them off? I typically just run and ghost them, or should I tell them and end it officially? Okay, so the first thing I will say is it just depends on how far along you guys have gone. So if you've established some sort of rapport where you have more, if you have a question, drop it in the question box. No problem at all. It depends on how far along you've gone with this person. So, for example, if it's somebody that you just started talking to, you can simply just say, it's been great getting to know you. I'm okay just being friends. Or you can just abruptly stop the conversation. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not rude or anything because there's no connection there. Like, you haven't built enough of a rapport. But if you find out, okay, this is somebody that you've gotten to know, you guys have gone on a couple of dates, they're really excited about you, you've spoken to them, they know more about your personal life, then I do feel that you want to communicate that, listen, I really do care about what we've gotten to know so far about ourselves, but you're just not the right fit. We're just not the right fit for each other. Then you can give the option of being friendly or saying that I'd actually like us to stop communicating. You can do that as well. I don't think ghosting will be the best option in that scenario, especially when you've built a rapport, because on their end, it can be confusing, and on your end, it will be uncomfortable. So I believe in making dating as comfortable for yourself as possible, okay? Even in the uncomfortable conversations, right? So that's what I would advise. And you will find that the better you become at knowing what it looks like for you to identify the right man for you, the faster you will get at identifying what the wrong men look like. It's kind of like practice, just like anything. If you start running today, you're not going to be as good as somebody that has been running for the last 3 years or 3 months even. Okay? So, yeah, I hope that was helpful. What is wrong with settling? When you have the green flags, you are in the most healthy relationship you've ever wished for. Yeah, that's not settling. That's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. So let me explain. If you're in a relationship that is functional, that is healthy, that you're happy, that you find that this is somebody that you can build a future with, you find that you align with your values, there's attraction, there's affection, that's not settling. That is the kind of relationship you want. What I'm talking about when I say settling is you are in a relationship or you are talking to men or dating men that you are not attracted to. There is no affection, there is no love, you're being taken for granted. All the red flags, in fact, it's a red sea at this point. Everything is just flying in a negative direction. You are definitely settling in that scenario. So yeah, I hope that's clear. Okay, another question. I'm finding men who are the 70 to 80% with great values, care about me, and are financially stable, are Catholic, but are not practicing Catholics. I want practicing. How do I keep faith? I will find that. Okay, so the great thing about this is you are meeting men that align with your other values and also fall into the general arena of your faith, which is Catholic. So what I would ask you to consider is what aspect of the faith are they not practicing? Does it have to do with no sex before marriage, or is it something specific to the Catholic faith that you would like them to practice that they are not practicing? And then I would lead with those kinds of questions and conversations at the initial point of meeting. Why? Because you will find that the more you do that, it's kind of like when you are, again, I'm going back to my car analogy. When you're on the road, before you turn to the left or the right, you indicate, right? You indicate with your traffic light that, oh, your indicator goes on that you're turning to the left, or you're turning to the right. Simply by doing that, you have changed direction. You have let those behind you and in front of you know, I'm no longer going straight, I'm going right. So for you, in terms of that analogy, what is just required is you need to change your direction. So in other words, at the initial point of meeting these men and getting to know them, and the reason I'm not going into any of that is they obviously, like you said, 70-80% match what you want. It's simply a question of content. So I just think you need to change the direction in conversations you're having sooner than waiting later to find out. And this isn't about keeping faith, okay? It's not about keeping faith. It's more to do with, because yeah, keeping faith is always going to be a part of our journey as Christians, but it's more to do with how can you support your faith with actions. So I would focus on what kind of conversations do I need to be having faster? Isolate what are the qualities in your faith that they are not practicing that is important to you and why, and lead with conversations around that. If you have an online dating profile or you're meeting men virtually, make sure you put that in your profile. You lead with it, okay? Because it's very important, because it will change the nature of how these men connect with you, and it will increase the chances of you meeting men that align with your values faster. Okay? Awesome. Do we have any other questions? Do we have any other questions, or is everybody fine? Okay, good. So I'm gonna go now. So this was fun, guys. You're very welcome. This was fun. If you want to work with me one-on-one, just click the link in my bio and first tap to apply. If you're the right fit, we'll have a conversation and move forward from there. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.